So Kirby started rolling up his sleeves and was like, "Tell him I'm coming down." And when he got down to the lobby, they were gone because they were fucking Nazis and they're cowards.
That's amazing.
I mean,
Kirby's in this book, actually. Kirby put himself in this book as a teenager.
Oh, that's really cool. And I was going to say, if you're unfamiliar with it, there's a really great play by Crystal Skillman and Fred Van Lente called King Kirby. And it's a stage play that they wrote about Jack's life. And the opening of it talks about when he was a kid, he would get on the subway and go to different boroughs and fight people to see their fighting techniques. You know?
Wow, that probably helped with the characters too. Later on.
Well, I mean, what'll help him as a soldier, you know, and he was, you know, if he was 5'6", I'd be surprised. He probably not even, probably 5'4". He was like Wolverine sized, you know, and just tough as nails, notoriously.
But just to show you some of the things that he puts into these 84 pages. I mean, and I'll go so far to say, and I know this is controversial, but I believe that this could be argued that this could be the first graphic novel. I know I'm shaking so many holy objects by comparing it to A Contract with God.
Yeah.
By beating it by a couple of years. Maybe it's a proto-graphic novel. I don't know the right way to put it, but when I read it, it truly felt like it was a graphic novel.
Yeah, I think you could say it's a graphic novel. I don't see, and I understand. Yeah, you know, of course, that Contract with God is the holy grail of, you know, the early concept of what a graphic novel was, and that's by the legendary Will Eisner, who came up with the actual term graphic novel and referred to comic books as sequential storytelling.
Which is brilliant because, frankly, it is.
Yeah, yeah.
The imagination in the white line between the panel. That's the way I've always looked at it.
Yeah, I'm checking out the Wikipedia page for the Treasury editions, the Marvel Treasury editions, and the Captain America Bicentennial Battles. The inkers were Barry Windsor Smith, Herb Trimpe, John Vanderporten, John Romita Sr., Dan Adkins, and Frank Giacoa.
It's a pity he couldn't get anybody of note.
Yeah. You know, well, there's some criticism of Giacoa, obviously, but geez, I mean, Barry Windsor Smith at the height of, you know, his popularity with Marvel. I mean, this is what, 3 years after he did Conan?
Yeah, I was about to say this is like Conan period.
Yeah.
But just so many interesting things came out of this book. It's the first appearance of a character that they call Mr. Buddha, who's eventually renamed the Contemplator. And most people would never have heard of this character. But if you've done a deep dive because of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, or if you just happen to read the books when they came out, Mr. Buddha, the Contemplator, is one of the people that Thanos takes the quote-unquote soul gems from in Thanos Quest number 2.
Oh, wow. They brought him back, huh?
Well, apparently the odd item that he puts in Captain America's hand to get him to jump through time in this book, they retcon to be one of the stones.
Oh, okay. The Time Stone, obviously.
Possibly, because they didn't name the stones until Silver Surfer number 44, which is the issue after Thanos Quest number 2. So it's indeterminate which stone each character had. They were all soul stones, soul gems at that point. And they were all green until Silver Surfer number 44.
Right on. Okay.
So with this time jumping thing that he does, he sends Cap back to World War II, and Kirby has him kill Hitler because he's Kirby. Then he sends him back to 1776 Philly, and he meets Ben Franklin, and in a very funny moment, inspires Betsy Ross to design the flag based on his costume.
That's great.
He goes to the Great Depression and sees the rampant gang activity and meets Jack Kirby as a teen selling newspapers on the street. And in the most, there are two moments in the book that I just think, how have I read comics my whole life and not known about these moments? Captain America winds up stuck between the cavalry and Geronimo's forces while they're fighting, and screams in a full-page panel, "There's another way, we're all Americans," as they start attacking each other, and then gets ripped out of time again. And then he winds up helping an escaped enslaved man who's being chased by bounty hunters, and gives a speech against slavery. So this is Kirby's America. The whole point that I missed at the beginning is that Cap's on his way to go give a speech for the bicentennial, and Mr. Buddha the Contemplator, whatever you want to call him, decides that he wants to show him all the sides of America so he can truly understand what they're celebrating. That's Kirby. That is Kirby.
Oh yeah, that's absolutely Kirby. And if you go back and read some of Kirby's stuff, there's his representation of blacks and African Americans are problematic in some ways. But he was also, even though he might have not realized, certainly didn't realize certain representations might be problematic. He was also somebody who was like, listen, we got to have black guys. We got to have black characters in comic books. He's like, we need to be create. He flat out, created Black Panther, and was like, we need a black superhero.
He wrote some of the best issues with Falcon in it.
Absolutely. And like Falcon is a problematic, and that's exactly what I'm talking about, a problematic character, because Sam Wilson started out as a pimp. He didn't start out as, I was military guy that,
like we know from the movies.
Yeah.
I was just reading in a separate direction. I was revisiting Green Lantern, Green Arrow number 87, the first appearance of John Stewart, where he goes, "You can just call me Black Lantern," and I mean it's very, very off.
Yeah,
but epic at the same time.
Yeah, and Denny O'Neil admitted that in his lifetime that he had done stuff that things were different. He would have written things differently. Yeah. But it made a statement. That book, the Green Lantern, Green Arrow, the Denny O'Neil, Neil Adams.
Tell me when you want to do that one, and I am here.
It's so good. It's so good. And talk about timely. Of course the very famous Snowbirds Don't Fly, or Snowbirds Can't Fly, which is the very famous issue with Green Arrow's ward Speedy, who is now known as Arsenal in the DC universe, preparing to mainline heroin. And
they dealt with unions. They dealt with mining towns, which also was dealt with. There's a moment in going back to Bicentennial Battles. There's a moment where he winds up in a collapsed mine with a bunch of miners, and he talks about laborers' rights.
Yeah, and it was the first time you had Green Arrow being represented as kind of a voice for liberalism or progressivism. And Green Lantern was
the space cop.
Yeah, as a voice for conservatism, military guy, test pilot, so on and so forth. While I guess the closest real world analogy to Oliver Queen is maybe Richard Branson.
That's just the facial hair.
Yeah, well, I mean, Branson, and when it comes to billionaires, Branson, is ain't as bad as the rest. I could, definitely, hang out and have a meal with Branson and with Yang and.
Yeah, if I had to choose a comic book billionaire to dine with, it wouldn't be Tony, it wouldn't be Bruce, it would probably be Oliver.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Absolutely, because you probably end up, just taking you to like a really awesome falafel place.
Exactly. Yeah. Instead of having to like be in some austere mansion, like
Yeah.
yeah. But we digress.
But we digress. So that's the Captain America Marvel Treasury edition, which you recently picked up, and that's a hardcover that you got, right?
No, I got the original Treasury edition.
Oh, you got an actual one from the vintage one.
Yeah, I got a period one. It's beautiful. It did not set me back that much at all. It has been reprinted, I believe, in a softcover trade, but I don't believe it's as big as the original.
Yeah, it's not the 10 by 14.
Yeah. Which really does bring something to it.
But yeah, Ben, you know what? Honestly, I'm seeing it here on eBay for like $45.
All right, you got me at what I paid. Okay, there you go.
Yeah, I'm seeing it.
I just happened to capture a really pretty one for that price.
Yeah, I'm seeing it. Well, yeah, for all around. Now I'm seeing it for $40, but the guy's going to bang you for $23 shipping, which is just so typical. All right, so my suggestion,
please tell me,
for what's on your shelf this week is The Ballad of Black Tom by Victor Laval. I am lucky enough to have met Victor at the signing for the first signing for Big Black Stand at Attica that we had at the Strand Bookstore, and Victor was kind enough to come down and host a Q&A with Jared, who co-wrote the book with the late Frank Smith, and Frank Smith's widow Pearl was there, and Jared's stepdad, Danny Meyer, who was an attorney on the case, was also there for the Q&A, and we sold out every copy, and Victor was great, and Victor and I were joking around, and I was saying that I was the real comic book head amongst our crew that worked on Stand at Attica, and I was joking around how about, if Jared wasn't obsessed with Saturn Girl, and he wouldn't know his Timberwolf from his Wolverine. And
that is a great insult.
Thank you so much. And Victor thought it was very funny too. So I picked up a copy of Ballad of Black Tom, which is a recent short novel that Victor wrote, and it's a Lovecraftian horror story about a young Harlem hustler named Tom, who basically isn't really a great guitarist, but he kind of plays up the whole frayed cuffed blues man. He purposefully wears really nice clothes that are a little bit frayed, so he looks like he's a guy on hard times, and goes around and he only knows a couple of songs on the guitar, and he knows some mystical folks in Harlem, and he takes a job delivering a book which is evidently enchanted to an older woman out in the outer boroughs. I believe she's in Flatbush or Flushing, actually. And while he's out there, he ends up encountering someone else, another white person who is from Flatbush, a gentleman named Mr. Soydam, who hires him to play a party. And I don't want to reveal much more than that, but it's right now we have Lovecraft Country, just ended. And this is another great take on the mythology created by H.P. Lovecraft from an African-American point of view. And one of the things that, if you saw Lovecraft Country, and one of the things a lot of people are learning that I've known for quite some time, is that Lovecraft was an abhorrent racist.
Wow.
Yeah, I don't know if you didn't know that. Yeah, Lovecraft was notorious. I mean, if you look up what the name of his cat was, like right off the bat.
Every 3 days, it seems like somebody turns out to have been an abhorrent racist.
Well, it's funny because a lot of stuff didn't come out about Lovecraft until all of his private papers were published in the late 70s, and people like Robert Bloch, who corresponded with him. Robert Bloch wrote Psycho
fame.
Yes. and Block was Jewish, and had corresponded with him.